Would you stay with someone if they never wanted to have intimacy? Why or why not? Currently in a 17-year marriage with someone with low libido. I basically get a quick one a handful of times a year. I knew this going into the relationship at the beginning. I chose him because he treated me better than other men did. He did what he said he'd do. He didn't play chase me or head games. He was just himself. He's aware of it and he's fine with it. Back in the day, I yearned desperately for physical intimacy because physical touch was always my love language, but not his. But over time, I let that part of me simmer down and see beyond that because I have a good man and we found a way to make it work. And we are as happy as can be. Wouldn't trade him for anything. To each their own. Seek what is important to you. In the end, if you're happy, it's all that matters. Story 2. No, intimacy isn't why I am with my wife, but I want to love her, not just a friend. If something health-wise happened to my wife, I would not leave her because she couldn't have intimacy, but if I found myself single again, I would not involve myself with someone who didn't want to ever have intimacy. Story 3. No, because I want to have intimacy. It's important to me and my intimacy with my partner. It's a bellwether for the health of the relationship too, for me. If I want it and they don't, well, that's an incompatibility you cannot fix. Either I have to abstain, and now I'm irritated, or they have to give in, and now they're irritated, and I'm probably also upset they are performing a chore instead of enjoying the intimacy with me. When you have a major incompatibility that you cannot fix, you end the relationship and move on. To stay in that situation will just waste your life and waste your opportunity to find actual love with someone. Story 4. My last girlfriend struggled with physical and emotional health and had severe trauma from cruel previous partners. We were together about 9 months, and we didn't have intimacy because I never felt like she was healthy enough. I loved her. Still do, despite a breakup and her subsequent faraway move, and I would have stayed with her for the rest of my life whether we had intimacy or not. I loved her most for her heart, mind, and soul, and I never had an emotional intimacy like I shared with her. Story 5. The idea that there is one person out there who is your perfect match is romantic BS. There are thousands of people out there with whom you can find compatibility, love, and a solid relationship. There's no reason to compromise on something like intimacy. Sure, you may love them, but you can fall in love with someone else who will match your needs. Story 6. To me, intimacy, which includes but is not limited to doing it in bed, is important. However, intimacy includes a lot of other things. It's not just the mechanical functions of the body. If someone did not want intimacy, that's their prerogative. I would expect intimate acts, however. Cuddling, touching, kissing, massage. I would expect and give honesty, open communication, and monogamy. And last, but most importantly, I would require a true partner in the other aspects of our relationship. Oh, and I would expect no judgment for fulfilling my own needs solo. The only thing I would not be able to take as a reason is someone saying they're intimate but not attracted to me, especially if they request an open relationship so they could find partners they're attracted to. Maybe that would work for someone, but not for me. I'd rather be alone than in that particular situation. Story 7. Yes, because I don't want intimacy. I'd also never judge someone for breaking up with me because they want more or different intimacy. I've got boundaries, likes, and dislikes. I'm not a very intimate person, but like the idea of being with someone who helps open me up to some of those things. But if we just don't get in that area, I'm an understanding person and wouldn't hold it against them for leaving. Just because it's not important to me doesn't mean it's not important to them, and if it's important to them, then it becomes important to me. Story 8. Absolutely, yes. I don't value intimacy at all. It doesn't go into my equation for the type of relationship I wanted with my wife. It's more of a bonus for me. I was beyond lucky that the woman I married approached me and ended up being myself with her. She has much, much higher libido than I, and it's never been an issue as we are expecting our second child this year. I want to say it's from my childhood trauma of being constantly bullied by girls, but I ended up marrying my best friend. And to have someone to always support you and be there for you is unfathomably so much more valuable than intimacy. Intimacy just doesn't matter to me. Story 9. As long as they're actively taking steps to try and solve their libido issues. My wife has informed me that she will not talk to her male doctor about her lack of libido because it is embarrassing. I suggested perhaps seeing if she could get a female doctor that could help in this regard, and she had no interest. She had no interest in trying to pursue any sort of fix and simply does not care how it impacts me. I think we're on the road to divorce over it. For her, it's entirely depression-driven, but that can only be an excuse for so long. I'm getting depressed due to her depression, and I think cutting her out of my life is going to be the only way to solve the issue. I need desire, romance, and passion in my life, and I realize those things will never be her priority. Story 10. At this point in my life, I would stay with him. Intimacy isn't really important to me at this point, in my early 60s. If I were in my 20s and 30s, then no, I would not. I've had intimacy in my younger days, but I could take it or leave it. I felt like it was normal to have intimacy during this time period. I've never had a high drive and could go for long periods of time without it. Story 11. Personally, no. I need it. There's a special sort of intimacy and connection that I feel with my partner when we have intimacy, and I wouldn't be able to go without that. Without that, I can't imagine the relationship would feel very satisfying or fulfilling. The only way I could possibly be okay with it is if being with my partner satisfied me in every way emotionally, and the only thing is that we just didn't have intimacy. then maybe I'd be willing to try, but I wouldn't make any promises. Story 12. If they never wanted to have intimacy at all, yes, I would absolutely stay with them. Intimacy is an amazing bonus, but not in any way the only reason for a relationship. However, if they never wanted to have intimacy with me, no. That's an immensely different situation that would stem from a severe lack of love, passion, commitment, and general happiness. There's no reason for both of us to be miserable the rest of our lives. Story 13. I mean, if I love them, of course I would stay. I've gone my whole life without having physical intimacy so far, so honestly, I would be fine. Companionship is what I want at the end of the day. It's not contingent upon that for me. If I love someone, then that's how I feel no matter what. I don't need the intimate physical aspect. Sure, I want it, but it is not at all a requirement. I'd say some form of physical affection or contact is a must for me, but doesn't have to be intimate. Cuddling or kissing at the very least. Actual physical intimacy I can live without. Story 14. I would. I went my first 20 years without it, a couple of months with it, and 6 more years without it. I've had great relationships in the meantime, and one in particular was better than the relationship I had physical intimacy during. Physical intimacy isn't the only form of intimacy. People think that to separate a friend from a lover, you need it. I don't necessarily believe that. Physical intimacy is great, but since I don't have physical intimacy during the beginning times of getting to know someone, it's not the reason I fell for them. And I'd never end things with someone over bad physical intimacy in the beginning. Maybe that's because I'm a girl, though, because physical intimacy is super hit or miss, mostly miss, in terms of satisfaction. Regardless, it takes time to learn each other's likes and dislikes. This is different, though, if after a while I said something and they didn't listen, or vice versa. But yeah, I always thought physical intimacy was a shallow foundation to build a relationship on. To each their own. Story 15. I have some relevant experience. 18 years ago, I, a cishet man, married a woman who followed a very strict no intimacy before marriage code. As it turns out, she wasn't interested in intimacy after marriage either. She found the whole idea revolting. Neither of us have heard of asexuality before, but it became clear that the label fit her. She's also been on SSRI since before puberty, which may be relevant. We tried it anyway when we were ready to have kids, and my thing said hell no to getting hard enough with someone who was obviously not into it at all. There have been times when I've been overwhelmed with depression, self-pity, and or resentment over the years, but they don't last long. She can't help who she is any more than I can make myself lose desire. We may only be best friends, roommates, co-parents, in a sense, but I can't imagine life without her. Story 16. I'm trying this right now. My partner, when we started dating, wanted to have intimacy, but as time went on, it just didn't happen, and eventually they came to the conclusion they're probably ace. Meanwhile, I'm not ace, and I'm on progesterone supplements, so intimacy is always in the background of my brain. Been hard, but they treat me well and are in general a good partner. They actually had the idea of opening up our relationship so I can go get intimacy from other people. I haven't done anything in that regard because I honestly was surprised they would suggest it, but they gave me their blessing to go and sleep with others. Story 17. Yes, I cannot afford to leave. She cannot afford to leave. Kids are in a good school zone and we live in a nice neighborhood with good neighbors. Can't afford to live here all by myself, and neither can she. We are giving our children a better opportunity than I ever got. I was given nothing by my parents. I've worked for everything I've ever gotten, and I want to live in a nice house with a pool in a nice neighborhood with nice neighbors and a good school zone for my kids. Story 18. No. My love language is intimacy and touch. I love giving and receiving. I love when my wife and I have a steamy session and then just fall asleep cuddling. I need to be able to walk through the kitchen and give her a light smack and she gets flustered. This is all part of the foundation. When we have intimacy, it feels no matter what's going on in life, we're still us. I don't know, I guess it's tough to write. Intimacy is mostly physical. I get that. And to me, it's so much more. Kissing my wife on the neck when she's pouring coffee and just wearing garments in the morning. A subtle squeeze in public. The way she squeezes my hand in public when we see something crazy but can't verbalize. The subtle glance when someone says something crazy in a conversation and you both say what the hell by a half-second glance. Seeing her body language when she's in an uncomfortable situation and she doesn't exactly understand why she's uncomfortable and being there to notice and fix it. Story 19. It wouldn't bother me. The one actual relationship I was in was with someone who was asexual. We both came from a super conservative Christian background, so I wasn't sure if her not wanting to talk about intimacy was because of that or if she was asexual. We finally broke up after about 6 months or so, and she came out as being asexual because she said that she didn't want to be in a relationship with anyone, so that was a few years ago, and we've both remained single since then. Her, I'm assuming that's why. Me, I've been in grad school for the past 6 or 7 years and have been focused on school. Story 20. My wife and I got through phases. We'll have intimacy twice a week for a couple of months and then go 3 months with no intimacy at all. Neither of us is angry or frustrated. It just kinda happens. We don't have kids or anything that would be an excuse for it or anything like that either. She has a busy work schedule and a resident physician, which probably plays some part in it. But even during her summers at med school, it was pretty similar to how it is now. We cuddle and kiss all the time and all that jazz. We truly are crazy for each other, but for some reason, after only a couple of years married, it just goes through cycles. But we're both very happy and couldn't imagine life with anyone else. Story 21. I think I would. If the person was very upfront and honest about this, and I still deeply enjoyed my time with them and other things outweighed the missing aspect, I could definitely see myself being fine with it, especially if there was still physical affection that wasn't intimacy. Also, if they were open to me getting my needs met elsewhere in a casual manner with others if it ever came to that, it would have to be a very mature and open-minded person. But I honestly enjoy laughing with someone and having good, deep conversations more than I enjoy intimacy 99% of the time anyway. Bonus points if they give great hugs and massages. Story 22. Nah. If they physically couldn't because of an accident or pregnancy or something medical like that, I would understand. But if they didn't ever want to, even though they're perfectly able, I'd feel that they're just not attracted to me and or possibly cheating. I've already spent most of my life feeling worthless and like I'll never be enough or deserving of love. I'll be damned if I finally get over that someday enough to actually get a partner just for them to resurface all those feelings. Story 23. As a woman, I used to have a really high drive and now it comes and goes. I do believe that it'll come back with the right partner, but I still can't promise that I'll always be able to fulfill his needs. It would be challenging at times for me to be with someone who never wanted intimacy, but I think I could sacrifice that for the right person. I'd never want someone who would sacrifice their body for my desires either. I've done that and never felt good about it. I just want an honest, loving, intimate connection, which doesn't always equate to intimacy. Story 24. I thought I could, but after living 6 months with an asexual person, I realized it wasn't possible for me. The pain of not being able to be intimate and physical with a person you love is truly horrible. It reached a breaking point for us, and we couldn't stay together any longer. The breakup was painful, but the former pain from the lack of intimacy was more intense than the breakup, which kind of comforts the decision. But I think it's up to personal preference, and you need to figure it out for yourself. It's not something you can decide. It's something you live through. Story 25. Depends on the situation, I guess. I would not become celibate in order to appease a partner who doesn't want intimacy because that's just cruel. If they were okay with some sort of polyamorous situation where I could have intimacy with other people, maybe we could make it work. Personally, I think people with no drive who expect a monogamous relationship with someone who does have a drive, because they should love me for more than intimacy, are being unrealistic and selfish. That's literally no different from the person with a higher drive saying, if you really loved me, you'd let me do it with you. Story 26. I think that's a conversation that needs to happen before a relationship starts. If it's that way from the beginning, then I wouldn't be able to make that relationship work, and it would be unfair of me to even try. Things change, and if it's something that comes along later, then we would need to have a very long talk about our options and expectations going forward. I'm the type of person who wants intimacy, and I don't see that changing. If an open relationship or poly-type situation is an option, then I would seriously give it a try. If those types of things are off the table, then no. I don't see it working out in the long run. At least not in a way that isn't toxic and unsatisfying for both of us. Story 27. I will never leave my current man unless he unexpectedly betrays me in some way. If he stops wanting intimacy for some likely medical reason, that's just me going back to buzzy friends and showerhead relief. I'd be a little sad because he's pretty great at it, but he's far too good a man to lose over stuff I can just do myself better than whatever backup dude I might find probably could anyway. Lol. I mean, he's one of only 3 dudes I've ever been with that could even get me off without my direct help anyway. Leaving him, or cheating and risking losing him for some chucklehead who, statistically speaking, would probably not even know what a bean is for and just roll over and be all done afterward the second they get off, regardless of if you got off or not, like their freaking hands ceased to function when they finished, would just be sabotaging myself for no good reason. I finally escaped all these expletive when I found him. I sure ain't ever willingly going back. Lol. Story 28. Probably not, but it really depends on a lot of factors. If I was single and dating someone and they told me that at the very start that they weren't available for or interested in any physical aspect to our relationship ever, then no, I don't think I'd probably want to be with them for long term, even if they were willing to allow me to seek that physical connection elsewhere. No hate to them or anything, just not what I'm looking for in a romantic relationship. If 10 to 15 years into our relationship and my significant other becomes sick or something and unable to have intimacy, then I'm not saying I'd immediately be divorcing them though. Story 29. Intimacy is physiologically important to your health. The release of endorphins and the mental feeling of closeness are necessary to our well-being. Men have to release testosterone and women have to release their estrogen. Hormones drive so much of our lives, both physically but especially mentally. It's super important to not ignore them. I can understand a non-monogamous relationship with someone abstaining, but it's downright selfish and honestly a bit disrespectful for someone to expect monogamy without intimacy. Healthy physical relations could solve so much of the world's psychological angst. That's exactly why we're taught to fear it and make it taboo. Story 30. Having had a wife who decided she never wanted intimacy again after getting pregnant with our youngest, and never wanted to talk about why, I can safely say my limit is a bit over a decade. I now have a reasonable amount of evidence it wasn't crappy technique, although I kind of wish it was, as I'd have been open to learning, and some circumstantial evidence from third parties that she never wanted intimacy but faked it for children, as well as the supporting evidence that 5 years on, she's never even considered dating. I'm still a bit resentful that she never admitted the issue, but we get on far better now as 2 single people where intimacy isn't an issue that we ever did as a couple. And I am in a better relationship. If I had my time again, I'd have spotted the signs and ended things 20 years sooner. So I did stay for a long time, but it was a mistake. Story 31. Nope. Just like people want someone who matches their personality, political learnings, general sensibilities, and values, it is entirely valid to want someone you're physically compatible with. The trick is to date people long enough that you find out most of those things before you commit. Even if they're good people with good qualities, if you're not going to be happy with some key differences, it's best to end the relationship before you get serious. That person is fine, just not right for you. The pain in the butt is that some people will act against how they really feel for a while for the sake of attracting and keeping a mate, but then they change to what they actually wanted and expect the other to just accept that and stay in the relationship. This is why be yourself really is important. If someone doesn't want to have intimacy, that's a perfectly valid choice to make for themselves, but not someone else. And that means if they want to have a romantic partner, they should make sure that the partner also doesn't want to have intimacy. If asexual isn't an option on dating profiles these days, it should be. If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos like this. Story 32. Yes, although I am a very active person with a pretty high libido, my boyfriend is the exact opposite. I get enough satisfaction with just my toys and myself. I am with him not just for intimacy, but for the respect, patience, and care he has given me that most other men I have tried to date could never provide without me having to ask for it. He's a hardworking man and genuinely has fun with me. My point in a relationship is not just physically, but that is also a bonus. My goal in a relationship is to be with someone I can work with well, depend on, make memories with, and have someone to look forward to coming home to every day. And that is my boyfriend of 5 years. Those are my personal preferences and opinions, though, and I understand that other people in other relationships seek totally different things. Story 33. Currently in this situation myself. I've had intimacy once in the last 3 years. I don't have a super high libido myself, but I don't want to live without it in intimacy. We've had countless talks about it, but it's going nowhere. I wouldn't recommend this situation to anyone. It does more harm to a person than you would think. I'm not exaggerating when I say they're the image of the ideal partner I imagined in my head before I met them. It sucks to know that they're not attracted to me in the same way. I still love them. I like the life we built together. I'd have to uproot everything if I ever decided to leave. Considering all that I sacrificed to be where I am, I don't think I can do that. The situation sucks, but I'm trying to live with it. Story 34. Fun fact, this will happen to most of you guys. The pause has plenty of not fun side effects, and those moves you've been perfecting all these years will likely suddenly and unceremoniously cease to work on her. She'll just lose interest. It happens. And if the two of you are lucky, by that time you'll have grown up enough to realize that there are more important things in life than getting your jollies whenever you want them. My wife is the love of my life, my best friend, and I'm the luckiest guy in the world to have her. Statistically, her drive should come back in a few years. She's well worth the wait. Source, 48-year-old guy married to a 51-year-old woman for the past 8 years. Together for 15. I can imagine losing her, much less leaving her. Story 35. As someone who went from having a super high drive to basically non-existent and never wanting to be physical because MS decided to enter my life and screw it out of existence 7 years ago, this subject plagues me. My husband chose to stay with me during my diagnosis period, even though I told him he didn't sign up for this and that it truly is okay to leave a relationship. At the time, we had been together for a few years, engaged, but our careers got in the way of having the wedding we wanted. Anyway, we don't have actual intimacy very often, but I sure as hell give him as much as he wants. I personally don't want to be physical, but I love touching my husband and making him feel good. I get so much satisfaction just from that. I don't know if my experience really applies to the question asked, but I guess I felt the need to say, after reading all the comments here, I feel really fortunate to have a husband that loves and appreciates what I can give him with how disabled I am. Story 36. I was in my 30s when I turned down a man who just wanted intimacy only, and he sounded like an intimacy freak to me. I don't think the man ever eats. I was only interested in him when I thought he wanted a date. Another man wanted a date, but he thought the first date included intimacy, so I never dated him. I think the real question should be why people are so obsessed with intimacy. I'm so tired of hearing about people who only want intimacy in this world. Where are people who want a friendship without benefits? Where's a man who wants to date without intimacy, or a man who wants to meet a woman instead of sending photos? Why can't a man talk on the phone without asking weird questions unless it's related to finding out if a woman has an STD before deciding to be with her? But men don't seem to be concerned about STDs. They just think about intimacy. Where's the man who wants to make sure the woman has a place to live and wants to take care of a woman when she's sick? Where are people who want to get to know each other with a conversation without bringing up intimacy and do things together that are not physical? Story 37. I stayed with my wife when she lost her drive. I had to relearn how to be patient and accept that her not wanting to sleep with me was not her losing attraction for me, but just her drive naturally falling off. Except it was her losing attraction for me. She divorced me and told me she had stopped loving me months before she told me anything was wrong. In fact, while she'd been saying to my face she still loved me and was still attracted to me, she had already, by her timeline, lost feelings altogether. So yeah, I would stay with someone if they never wanted intimacy, but I wouldn't be super stoked about it. Intimacy is very important to me for a relationship. It's not the only thing, but intimacy is important for me. makes me feel wanted and desirable in a way that other gestures don't. It makes me feel close to someone. I get that intimacy doesn't mean the same thing to everyone, but it means that to me. A romantic relationship with me is going to involve intimacy. I'm not asexual, so I likely would not enter into a romantic relationship with someone who was. I just think that aspect of our sexuality would lead to conflicts, but if a partner realized they were ace after we got together, I'd likely try to make it work with them. Story 38. This question is part of a much larger issue of, do you expect your partner to meet all your needs? In my mind, the answer to that is no, but physical intimacy is definitely one of my love languages. It would be difficult for me to entirely remove that. Drives wane over lifetimes, and sometimes there are outside issues that need resolving, compromise, etc., but I'd be hard-pressed to date an asexual monogamously. I consider myself poly, so I suppose it's possible I might find an asexual who fulfilled all my relationship needs, except intimate ones. But since intimacy is important to me, I'd need to seek that outside of the relationship. My boyfriend and I have a strong emotional relationship beyond our intimate relationship, but I don't expect him to perform all my desires. For example, there is nothing wrong with placing a high value on intimacy in relationships. There are too many prudish people that treat intimacy as if it's unimportant. Intimacy shouldn't be all that matters, just as it shouldn't not matter. It's okay to want intimacy as much or as little as you want, as long as it's not disrupting your life. Story 39. People would answer this question in different ways. If someone has a low or non-existent libido, they may say yes, while someone who had a high libido might say no. It pretty much comes down to compatibility and differences when it comes to intimacy. Some people love the intimacy with their partners, even finding their love language sometimes, while others may not depend or rely on it as much. And if their compatibility is low due to how much intimacy one person wants or how little and the other wants the opposite, then it's a relationship that won't last long. Now, if it's a medical condition that causes one's partner to be unable to participate in intimacy as much, then it would be another thing. Me personally, I'm aro-ace, which means I find little to none romantic attraction towards others, but if I were in a hypothetical relationship with someone, I would still stay with him because while I do have a high libido, I don't get the need to have intimacy with another. Story 40. It depends. Is it just me they're not having intimacy with? I was just in a relationship with minimal intimacy, like once every 4 to 6 weeks. I was fine with it, to a point. I needed her to at least express interest or acknowledgement of me and all that I provided for us. It was comforting for me to feel loved and appreciated back, and I found messages on her phone to her ex, not even a week after I dropped $5,000 and moved us into a new apartment, and she had been spending more time with friends and staying late at work. It all clicked into place. She has an autoimmune disease as well as a bunch of other health issues. I didn't really see the signs clearly because of the medical issues, so in the end, it was either radio silence at home, I need space, and she would be in bed all the time, not want me around for anything, or she would go out to see friends, which I encouraged her to do since she hardly ever went out on her own without me. But she wouldn't communicate on when she might be home, or she would be gone many hours later than she would let on originally. Also, quite a few times, work ran late, like 9:30 p.m. or 10 p.m. when she was supposed to be off around 4 p.m. or so. I asked her to move out of my apartment, and then she took my puppy with her along with her 2 dogs when she finally left. A really sad fact is that I still miss her and want her to come back home. She was the one I had been waiting for my whole life, and then she just did a 180 out of nowhere. Nothing would be the same as it was if we were to work things out, but she was the quiet to the storms in my mind. She brought that woman's touch to my life that I didn't know I needed until she was just there. Now I'm all alone and just kind of void of anything, going through daily motions, no real purpose. I'm financially stable, a clean and nice place to live, a great job and income, but mentally I'm messed up now, and any final hopes and dreams I had in a promising and happy future seem gone now. I'm just numb and closed off. I smile when I need to, socialize when I have to, then go home and stare at the wall or the ceiling until I pass out, then go to work. Rinse and repeat. I'm on vacation right now. The first one I've taken in years. I'm just faking it, honestly. Not sure how to enjoy life anymore. Story 41. Nope, I would not, and have not. Physical intimacy is important to me in a relationship. It's not just about the peak for me, it's all the different sensations that come with it. The feeling of their skin on my skin, the feeling of their weight pressed against my body, the noises, the love, I'm married, or the heat of the moment, the excitement of it, etc. It's a full sensory overload, and it's amazing to share that with someone. The peak is just the cherry on top. 9.95 out of 10 times I get the cherry, but that doesn't mean I didn't enjoy connecting with my husband in that way if I don't reach that peak. I wouldn't want to be with someone who didn't want that or felt like it was a chore. It's a basic incompatibility thing for me. There are other things we do to connect, like watch anime or game together, but physical intimacy for me is one of my favorites. I've been with someone prior who had a low libido and it didn't last very long. Nothing like being told to find someone else to be intimate with you because they can't handle you. That it was a chore. So I did, and I'm much better off and happier. Story 42. If desire was the issue, no, I would leave. If not physically able to, then I stay. That's different. My marriage vows stand with 2 exemptions, infidelity and unwillingness. I'm with my wife, the love of my life, because we were physically attracted to each other in the first place. We would never be friends if we didn't find each other attractive. We don't share many interests and have usually different lifestyles. For 17 years, that has been how we roll. If it wasn't for the dirty deeds, we would have never hung out outside of our relationship. So if she decides to be intimate with someone else or simply doesn't want to be intimate with me, then I'm out. Story 43. Currently struggling with that exact question. I fell in love with the most wonderful woman and she struggled telling me she was asexual. I struggled with the idea, but ultimately she's not ready to fully commit to me anyways. I asked her if she committed to me if we could have physical intimacy just once a year. I don't want to ruin any holidays or anniversaries for her or remind her of any trauma from her past that she carried with her. But I wanted just one day of the 365 that she could see through her discomfort for me. It's selfish, I admit that, but I want to be able to experience that intimacy with her at least once. I might never ask again because ultimately I've decided it's not worth losing her trust. I might go back on it, even if she agrees, because this woman takes care of me like no one ever has, and I want to be her safe space like she's mine. It's not easy. The feelings are conflicting, but whatever happens, I won't give up on her. Even if she never satisfies me, I'd move mountains just to be a reason she can smile every day. At the end of the day, I'm just unable to know what is okay and what isn't okay to ask, but she matters more than any one desire. If I can just see her smile every day, maybe I don't need physical intimacy. Story 44. I'm in that situation now. I'm 36 male, she's 41 female. She's always had an aversion to intimacy, and in the last 5 years or so, she has almost completely stepped away from it. Part of that is my fault because we used to fight a lot about money or bills or my assumptions and expectations of her. We don't fight so much now, but she's borderline asexual. She tells me all the time she doesn't desire intimacy or anything physical in any capacity, and that it's more to keep me off her back. If I'm very lucky, once or twice a month, however the last time we did it was about 4 to 5 months ago, I don't ask for intimacy much anymore because I know 99% of the time it'll be a no, I'm tired. No, my ex hurts. No, let's wait till X day. That's all fine, but here's the issue and why I'm so frustrated. My wife is home almost all the time. My daughter is always with her. My daughter is on summer break, and even when she isn't, she's still mostly at home when she's not at school. I live in a 2-bedroom apartment, and if they're both always home, there's nowhere in the apartment to take care of myself. She's the only way I can do that unless she takes the kid out to go do whatever. I don't like the idea of fiddling in places we all use, like the bathroom or toilet room or living room, etc. So I can really only do it in my bedroom, but they're home constantly. I brought this up with my wife, but she doesn't care. She told me to just do it at work, but I would never because number 1, that's weird and gross, and number 2, I'm a teacher. What the heck? At the moment, I have no idea what to do. Can't even get up early before anyone and sneak a fiddle somewhere because my wife goes to bed at like 5 a.m. and gets up at 1 to 2 p.m., long after my daughter has already got up. I've been frustrated for so long, I just don't know what to do anymore. I want more than just petty intimacy every few months and to not have to sneak around my own home to find a place I can hastily do it by myself in peace. Story 45. No, unless they were willing to let someone else fulfill that need. And ace people need to understand this when they date non-aces without being upfront. I know it's hard for them to find partnership when they're not aro. I know it can be hard, awkward, extremely painful even if you fell for someone and having that conversation might break your heart. But it is insanely selfish to just lead on someone like that when you're not compatible like that at all. Almost, if not just straight up catfishing. When gay, straight, or bi people fall in love with someone that isn't a match in their attraction, they do not force the relationship or catfish them pretending to be someone else. It hurts, but it happens and it's part of life. Offering an alternative is also something that needs to be an open discussion and done willingly, and be sure it's not going to make either or both miserable. Sorry, rant. I've seen just 2 posts too many of aces asking what to do about their very physical partner they haven't told they were ace to yet. It makes me go, girl, please, it's one thing saying you want to wait until you know a person better, but straight up not being physical is absolutely leading someone on with a promise that will never happen. Not talking about any of that incel bullcrap of men getting enough good guy points to unlock intimacy, but proper, honest to God, your attractions are not compatible and cut it off, or it will break you worse. Story 46. I was in a relationship with my ex-girlfriend for almost 3 years. We had intimacy maybe 10 times in total. Why was it like that? Well, she had some medical issues and felt pain. I was supportive, but I never felt that she actually had a problem with it or that she wanted intimacy at all. Only 2 years later did she say that she had also experienced some trauma from her ex-boyfriend and that was another reason why we didn't have intimacy. Now I'm dealing with my own trauma because of this experience. I have a high drive and my main love language is physical touch, so it was really difficult for me to stay in that relationship. Now I know that I would never go through something like that again. It just hurts too much. Story 47. Truthfully, it depends. If it's because of a health complication or they just genuinely don't have a high libido, then yeah. But if they don't have a history with low libido or they don't have health complications, then I'd say no, because I believe if someone truly has romantic feelings for someone, then they feel at least some level of intimate desire towards that person. If they don't, then I just interpret that as the person not truly loving said person as much as they claim to do or simply mistaking their love for a less romantic emotion. Intimacy isn't what's most important in a relationship, not in the slightest. But a good rule of thumb personally is that happy relationships have good intimate lives. Story 48. I currently am, and I'm not planning on leaving anytime soon. We've been together for almost 8 years now. I knew from the beginning that she wasn't that interested in intimacy, so I waited for her to be ready for it. Instead, we found out that it's called being asexual. I was pure prior to meeting her and still am, so I always wonder if I'm missing something, and I probably wouldn't choose a relationship without any intimacy again, but hopefully I never have to choose again anyway. We're emotionally connected, and I love her deeply and would never give her away for intimacy. I sometimes worry that it's not healthy or something like that, but reading through these comments, I know that this is right and can work for a lifetime, so I don't regret it. Story 49. Currently am 39 female and 44 male. My boyfriend has depression and anxiety. He hates his body. We haven't had intimacy in about 4 years, with the years in between before that. It was awful. Before I understood, it was because of his head demons and not because I was unattractive. It took me a long time to understand as well, since he didn't want to admit to his problems. We still cuddle and kiss and take showers together. I can turn him on, then his upper head gets between us. I offer regularly, but he never feels like he deserves it. We have a good life together. House and pets. It's not worth breaking up over or cheating on him for. We were both cheated on, so neither of us wants to do that to each other, but I sorely miss having intimacy with him. Story 50. I had this in my last relationship before my current one. My now ex-boyfriend claimed he had trauma from his teenage years, which is fair, I get that. I do too, and I know it can lead to either intimacy aversion or compulsive intimacy tendencies. I leaned forward compulsiveness because that's how I guess I handled it, but he went the other way. The problem was, behind my back, he would pay girls on campsites to do things for him in other spaces away from me. He spent like $250 throughout the relationship and was extremely fatphobic to me in the way he'd talk to me, about me, or when we'd be in public and he'd point out other fat women, usually ones bigger than me, and say, "Don't get like that." Because whether he said it or not, he wasn't attracted to what I looked like after our first interaction in 2018 when the weight gain started getting worse. I went so long without intimacy and it destroyed my self-confidence because there was almost no physical contact. I cannot be in an intimateless relationship. If you don't do it all the time, I don't care, but you need to be attracted to me and love my body the way you love my soul. And I found that with someone who truly does love me in all parts of me and shows me so regularly. It is worth it to follow what you want. Well, if you like these stories, here's more. YouTube thinks you're going to love this. Catch you in that video.